Hey all. For the next 25 minutes, I'll be explaining a bit how at Parma we use open source technologies, contribute also to those moments by sharing some examples of codes that we use, etc., and talk about our new Gialloblù Open Analytics Lab, GOAL for short, which is our open communication initiative. And yeah, so the title is How Openness and Transparency Can Transform Data Practices, because today there is a lack of transparency and openness in the football industry. There is a lot of secrecy. Quickly about me. So I started not in the football industry. I started in the French national rugby team 9 years ago. Wow, 9 years ago now. Then did a quick stint in a consulting company where I worked as a data scientist in retail and luxury, and then founded a consulting/software company before I joined Parma 3 years ago now to start up and lead their data analytics department. The work that you'll see that will be presented is not just mine. So meet my incredible team. The team at Parma is pretty small. It's 3 people, and it differs from some other data teams. We don't have data analysts, for instance. We have a data engineer. We have a data viz guy who does all our reports and stuff. And we have a guy working on tracking data almost exclusively. So a short team, very, very, very specialized. All right, let's openly discuss how we use open source and transparency in general. As I said, first things first. Indeed, the soccer industry, the football industry, there is a lot of secrecy when, in the end, we all do the same things, right? We all have the same 5 even data providers, including our amazing host. We all have the same tracking data provider, including our amazing host. We all have the same GPSs, and we all do the same things more or less in the end. We all analyze the opponent. We all do fitness reports, and we all scout players. Most of the things that we do, we think that they're secret, but there are some breaks that are very, very much common. And another thing, we just need also to all take a step back and acknowledge that technologically, our industry is not one of the leading industries. When I worked in the retail industry for L'Oreal, in the luxury, for instance, we're talking about product substitution, which is no more, no less than how do we replace a player in a team. That was, 9 years ago now, and it was using the same concepts, except it wasn't how does the player play, it was how does the product sell. It wasn't how does player complement themselves, it was how do those product lines complement each other, etc., etc. But all in all, it's more or less the same thing. There is a lot to learn from other industries. There is a lot learned from other industries. At Parma, we really are not innovators per se. We've never contributed to the public domain by publishing articles, by etc. We really, or open source software, we really stand on the shoulder of giants, both in terms of open source and open research. Open source, we base our entire data team and architecture on 2 open source technologies, let's say, Python and SQL, on top of which we've added some Apache open source technology, Airflow and Orchestrator. I'll talk more about it later. And DBT, which is, it's getting more and more famous now, but SQL, running SQL commands. And open research, theses, research papers, both are very complex but quite rare. You don't see a new PhD thesis every day. But when something is out, it's usually game-changing. So we take inspiration from that to actually replicate what we can, or at least take ideas. And providers paper, white papers, same thing. Everything in there is out in the open. We just take inspiration in there to try to build the best products that we can for our team in general. Now, for the first time, it's a bit our time to contribute and give back to the community in general. So there is nothing game breaker here, a game changer here. That's our performance analysis, as it's said in the UK, match analysis, timeline, and how we use data at Parma in that process. We basically have 5 different times where we use data. Pre-game, how can we play to beat the opposition, more or less? Or what can we know about the opposition to support the coach and the analyst in actually producing the how can we beat the opposition? Live, we don't really do it yet. We're planning on doing it very, very soon in the next weeks. So, but how do we get live tracking and event data to inform in-game decisions? Flash post-match report, that's going to be actually the centerpiece of the presentation. How do we deliver in 30 seconds post-game report to our coach directly on his cell phone, so that before he goes in the conference room, in the press conference, he has all the facts that he needs to be able to talk about it. And then 2 post-game reports, which are a bit longer, 10-page, 15-page. So that presentation is pretty old. I probably finished it on Thursday, so it changed already. We no longer have two decks, we only have one. So tracking data is included 45 minutes after the game. And we generate all the insights for staff now. Focus on that part, the Flash post-match report. And I want to show you a bit how we detect the end of the match, how do we automate that, how do we send it to our people on WhatsApp. And that was the end of the nice little slides. Then it's going to be a lot of code. Just introducing Airflow really quick. I don't know if people, if you've already used it or if you know what it is. Mainly famous in the data engineering community. Open source platforms backed by the Apache Foundation. It allows to run Python code either on schedule or to trigger it or to base it on what they call sensors. You've got a file that changes. We need to trigger an entire chain of events. And so what is a DAG? Well, very simply, you do this, and then based on the condition, either you do this or you do that, and then you do this, and then in the end, no matter what, you do that. It's pretty simple to understand. It's acyclic, which means you go from left to right, and it's directed, which means it has a direction. It does not, the snake does not bite his own tail. So that's an easy DAG, and that's our actual DAG for our post game. So welcome. We detect the end of the match, and then we do all of that, and then we send the PDF at the very end, here and here. We're not going to go through everything, obviously, but some bits and bobs over there. All right, credit where credit is due. So if you find that very interesting and very well done, well, I'm leading the department, am I not? So I'm taking all the spotlight. If you think it's not good, my data engineer is here in the room. Feel free to address all remarks and complaints to him. So most of what I'm going to present has been built by Matteo, currently our super data engineer, and jack of all trade because he was the data scientist, the data engineer, the data analyst, everything. All right, let's go from our super complex DAG into something a bit more digest, shall we? So basically, we detect the end of the game. So how do we detect the end of the game instantly or almost instantly? Download and enhance events, then create all our specific files that we need to generate a report, update report, send report via WhatsApp is a bit the menu for the presentation. Now it becomes technical. Obviously, that's not everything. There are thousands of lines of code. If I was to present everything, we'd probably need a couple of days. So let's just go on the big part and the most important part. The first thing we want to do is to detect the end of the match or the game. For that, we constantly, around 90 minutes after the scheduled start of the game until 120 minutes, we don't play cup games too often. But we basically try to see if a game has ended. And how that works is, well, we get, the last time we asked Opta, has the game ended, and the time now. And, well, we ask Opta, okay, you should have a game from Parma that has started between 3 hours and 90 minutes ago. Could you please give us the list of those games that are happening live? If we detect a match ID that matches, then we move forward. Now that we know that we have a match that's either live or ended recently, at most, an hour and a half ago, we ask Opta, by the way, do you have type ID 37? Do you have an end of game to give us? And if they say no, we ask again in a second, or in 2 seconds, or in 3 seconds. And basically, we spam Opta until they give us, yes, we do have a game that ended. Please stop calling us. If we do have a match ending, then we move forward and we create stuff like, okay, match data, blah, 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 blah. And we move on to the next step, which is, Opta, are you sure that the match has ended for both teams? Turns out it's a necessary check because sometimes the match ends for one team, not really for the other. Those typical situations where only one team is playing football on the pitch. No, it's just for a sanity check basically. But yeah, Opta has a game. Do we have period ID 14, which means game done in Opta's coordinates? Do we have that for both teams? Yes, no. If yes, well, then we move on. We pass that information of the games that have actually ended to the next part of the script. We get the teams that are playing for that game, we get the roster for both teams, we get the data, like the name for both teams, etc. All the information that we're actually going to need to power our report, we get them. And pointing my attention here, we have a big data architecture at Parma. We have databases, data warehouse, data lake, etc. But for this very specific scenario, because we actually need the data to be available within seconds, we just store a CSV on our AWS environment. And we will actually store CSVs every time for that specific use case, just because then we can go and read them instantly. We don't have to load them into a database, wait for indexes to run, etc. So we get the team data, and we get the player data. Last thing we do is, well, obviously we need the event data to run our post-game report. Otherwise, it'd be pretty boring if we only have the players who played. So we get the match data, the event data for that game using our MA3 feeds. And there is a little trickery here. I'll get back to that in a minute. But basically, we start from the event, and then we do what we call enhancing those events. We're going to add them. We're going to add a ton of elements to them, and we do that on the go. And then, well, pretty simple. We create all the metrics that we want, that we're going to aggregate in the future, and then we do a big, sum expected goals, sum passes, and there we are. We have our post-game report. Only halfway through the presentation, so it's not really as easy as that. Two things that I want to present. The first one is, well, data cleaning is important. I love Opta data and everything, but only in Opta data is a picture square of 100 by 100. That's not reality. So we recreate some coordinates so that we can run actually some of our models. We retrained our own expected goal models, post-shot expected goal, expected assist, etc., which means we can do the imputation straight away in that process. So in those 30 seconds I presented earlier, we actually download all the data, clean them, run our models, export them, refresh the dashboard, and send it. Some of the data cleaning that we do that maybe will give ideas to some of you. Maybe you already all do that, in which case, well, you'll be able to judge if we do it correctly or not. We actually add 3 things to our Opta data. The first thing is the team in possession. The team in possession, which is not a standard data in your regular F24 or MA3 feed. So we recompute the team in possession. Basically, if you have a pass or a shot or blah, 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 then you stay in possession, except if the pass is lost, in which case you change the possession. If you've got a tackle, blah, 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 you change the possession. If the ball goes out of bounds, you mark it as a dead ball, etc. So we recreate a team in possession to be able to then quantify time spent in possession, for instance, etc. Another thing we do that we actually use to compute stuff like line-breaking carries, that's the amazing presentation from earlier. We need to actually add the carries because carries are not included in your default events. Same thing, if the event is not a deleted one, then try to basically create a carry that's a straight line between the previous event and the next event, because that's 90% of the time, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a carry. And the last thing is going to be, so we know who is in possession, but within a possession, you can have different sub-sequences of possession. At least that's how we want to analyze the data. So we just go and actually create them. If you have a dead ball, if the next team is actually yours still in possession, if you don't have too much time between two events, blah, 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 you stay in possession, else you increase the possession. And yeah, we do add a possession ID to our data. So team in possession carries models, expected goals, post-expected goals, expected assists, mainly because that's a workflow that's almost exclusively an event and possession IDs. All right, not bad, good start. Now we have CSVs left, right, and center. And now comes the question of how do we send those CSVs to our head coach, which I don't know about yours, but ours really don't like receiving 20 CSVs. So we have to do him a little report. We use Tableau to build our dashboards because, well, we found a guy who was really good at Tableau, so we went with Tableau. But that gives us the possibility to actually refresh our dashboard with some data stored in S3. So we have our little CSVs stored in S3, and we update our Tableau dashboards, which reads the last version. Little magic of the API of Tableau. We want an A4 portrait of a dashboard, and we want to store the dashboard on S3 as well. If you're not familiar with Tableau's API, well, there is an amazing doc online. But you can pass filters to Tableau when you query the PDFs, which means you can just specify which match report you want. It will generate the PDF, and then you can export that directly as a PDF that you store on your own servers, and that you can attach to a mail, etc. So that's exactly what we do: get the post-game report and store it on our environment. We have a PDF stored, which is good. Missing the last part, which is how do you send that. We found that sending reports via WhatsApp was really good for coaches. They have their phone or their watch around. So we just go with WhatsApp's API and fill the parameters that we want. Hey, Sebastian, a post-game report is done for the game Monza v Parma. You can find it here and send. Now, code is amazing. How does it look like in real life in the end? Well, we have our little message. So yeah, new game is done. You can click on here. You click on that. It opens a PDF, one pager. That took 30 seconds, and that took me around 25 minutes to explain. I'll go very quickly on the rest because I do have a timer behind me. Recently, we started our Gialloblù Open Analytics Lab, a goal for short, which is an open space like a blog, not like a blog, where we've posted some of the public analysis that we made. There's an example at the end, but Champions League predictions, but also some technical papers or technical articles, such as description of our data architecture and data infrastructure. Why did we do that? Well, 4 reasons. The first one is, well, give back to the community. We've taken inspiration from others. It's only fair that if a club wants to start a data project and they don't know how to structure the architecture, at least they have an example from a club. Better than nothing. Raise awareness on Parma's data project, because I'm not sure that every one of you was familiar with our data project, but we do have a data project. It started 3 years ago. Attract talents and create a pipeline, because again, while in the UK it may be easier, attracting people in Parma in Serie B was a bit difficult. And the fourth part is federate community. It's very early, but events like that to us is amazing. Giving back to the community, some people in the room have inspired, at least me personally, but the data project at Parma, and the football analytics community and the data community in general have shaped these projects. So that leads to the other thing, which is, I think it's, when you've been inspired, it's only fair to try to inspire the next one to arrive. Those who start, either as clubs or as individuals trying to break in the football analytics world. The third thing is extending the passion. Well, you probably have all seen that, but we work in probably one of the sexiest industry in the world, at least for young men. When you say that you work in football, eyes like that. The problem is, since it's a very secret industry, no one really knows what we're doing. So we need to put it out there somewhere. Boom, boom, boom. Raising awareness. Italy, as a country, is seen as lagging behind. It's pretty true, I'll be honest. But some clubs are actually doing good things. Inter, Como, Parma are trying to push the boundary of data and analytics, at least in Italy. And yeah, it's also our responsibility to put the word out there that we're doing things. And then the two last thing are data is only for big clubs and data is expensive. No, it's not. Parma started, we finished 12th in Serie B. We were not a big club. We didn't have a lot of money. Yet, we started working with events and then scrapping data, even data, tracking data later, etc. All right, the rest of the presentation then is going to be a bit too fast to actually play jokes. Parma is here. I don't know if you would have guessed it, but there was supposed to be a quiz. But the location of Parma is actually kind of a challenge for us to attract talent because we have 10 Serie A clubs, less than 2 hours of driving away from us. And it's difficult to attract talents when you're competing with Inter Milan, for instance. What we managed to do is get interns to grow them and actually develop them. So the Parma team is 4 people because we had a guy leave the team recently to go where? You'll see that next slide. But out of the 5, 3 people were actually interns with us. So we've trained them and then we managed to keep them. And yeah, football is a high turnover industry. You've probably seen that as well, or you probably know that. So Yanis was actually presenting at the PySport data last year in Eindhoven and got poached by Leeds. Thank you. But yeah, you need to be able to adapt for those kind of changes. We had an intern that took on as a full-time position. And the same thing is going to happen as I'll be leaving the club soon. And Matteo, the data engineer, will be taking over as head of data and analytics. Last thing, I know I'm a bit of a time. I literally need 30 seconds. No one has a monopoly on good ideas. It's important to drive collaboration with peers. So that's you. We can actually share ideas. We can actually share projects. We can actually collaborate on a lot of things that are not sensitive. How we automate a post-game report in 30 seconds is not sensitive, not at all. That's not where our club is going to make money, or that's not what's going to help us win games. But also, be challenged from outside. There is an entire world out there where, with a lot of very smart people working on data, what we see, as a football problem, can actually be something much different than that and be a finance problem. Or, we had last year at the Opta Pro forum, a data scientist working in betting, proposing a great topic that's on football playing styles for players. So, accept to collaborate with your peers, accept to be challenged from the outside. Some examples of what it looks like. So very bloggy-like. You can find public analysis, technical papers, challenges when we'll put them. Eventually, research papers that we've done, some nice little visuals because Nick is actually amazing at Tableau, so kudos to him. And that's it. Any questions? I'll be around. Don't bite. Or feel free to reach out via email or via LinkedIn.